Welcome to Foreigners and Friendship, a series of podcasts. We present a number of bonus tracks connected to our radio show. You can listen to conversations with artists and activists, reports from festivals and other larger events, essays, reviews, poetry, and letters. We see ourselves as part of a non-binary rebellion with the intention of creating a language and a human condition beyond race, ethnicity, gender, sex, and class. Tear down these walls, dismantle the statues of power, and meet the other with an open spirit. On the 4th of January this year, 2023, we met Reggie Letsatsi. Reggie Letsatsi is affiliated with Limani Gallery in East London as the artistic curator of the gallery. And he is also a lecturer in fine arts at Walter Sisulu University in East London. We met him in the beginning of January at Limani Gallery in East London for a conversation about the gallery and his perspective on contemporary art in South Africa.
My name is Reggie Letsatsi. I was born in Boksburg and I grew up there, but around 1976 when the riots spread around the country, my folks sent me away to a boarding school. I stayed there for a long time until I did my grade 12. And then I studied medicine for a year. Then I left it. And then I went to these black universities. But eventually I landed into fine arts because that's what I do. Most people who went to primary school, high school with me know that I like art. That's what I've been doing since.
So how did you get from medicine to art?
I got bored today. I realized that I was in a foreign space. So I think during the first semester I realized I was lost. Though I was busy with my murals, painting portraits for people, I realized this thing of waking up at 6, going to classes, 1 o'clock, going to the lab until 5, then fall asleep because from 1 o'clock to 5 it's a lab to do experiments. You miss one experiment, you fail because there's a schedule. And then I was missing many of them. So I think my passion is art. And I think this is why most people I grew up with think I followed my passion. So I went to Wits very late. And I was the only black student there at Wits. And I was the only black in the department, which was nice. So was my drawing was it weird? It was nice because my drawings were different from everybody. If we're doing portraits, mine would be different. Mine would be dark, whereas others had blonde features and things. So it was quite fun. But after I graduated, I was employed by the Gqeberha Art Gallery called the Jack in Durban Park. But I worked as an education officer for 3 years. My job was to design education programs to complement exhibitions. For instance, if there was an exhibition of ceramics, I'll have to devise programs for kids to create interest in the exhibits. So I have ceramic workshop for children working with clay, coil. Though we wouldn't fire them, but they would know how to make a pot. If it was an exhibition dealing with abstract or stories, they would create stories for children. But my programs were largely 3 ranges. There was programs for children, which are normally held during the holidays, Easter, June, and September and December. And then there would be teenage workshops between 13 to 18. Those are mostly drawing exercises. That's why.
So there was a whole kind of educational program at that time.
If a staff room says next year we're going to have this exhibition by so and so, and I would ask when is the date? Is that artist prepared to work with young people? Can they do workshops?
How did that work? Was the kind of cooperation with Wits, or it was
with
cooperation
artists,
with schools?
With the schools as well. I work with the schools, local schools, and then I was also responsible for training guides, tour guides, those who take people to paintings.
The one who also worked at
I trained them.
People around.
I trained them because every year I get a new batch. Every year, a new batch. It's mostly retired teachers. We have nothing to do. Some have taught art. Most of them. They constituted a great background of what you could call art gallery friends or friends of the gallery because they paid that membership.
You become a member and then you get some kind of benefits.
Yeah, and then end of the year they have their own dinners and they get prizes. And then they contributed a lot to our collection because if sometimes we didn't have money to buy an artwork, they would contribute among themselves and buy it. They're mostly wealthy women, mostly. There's only one
So
man.
they will just pay up money themselves, or they will go and
They'll sort through because they're connected with corporates too, like Standard Bank. Someone's husband was an executive at Standard Bank.
But these friends was typical women, or
It was mostly women. Mostly women.
it's actually interesting because in a lot of places in the world there's this saying that if it was not for the middle-aged women, then there would be no artwork.
You see, it makes sense. And then at my end of contract, I decided that I want to go and study. I wanted to go and study arts management in London. My term was going to end in December, but around July I left, resigned, applied to University of London. Most people who were doing this arts management have never worked in the art organizations. I was only person.
Oh, okay. But
So
where
it's
did they
shame.
come from? They come from a business
They come
side?
from different backgrounds, business background.
Okay.
Some got bored, they want to change.
Oh,
There
and
was
then
a
they
guy-
came from a business background, and then they kind of located art as
There was
area of
someone who
business.
was an architect but was getting bored, so he came to study art in London, and it did not really give him a nice sense of that. So he came and joined arts management, and there were people there was a guy who used to design golfs around the world, golf estates. He came there just to kill time, and then there were Japanese and Koreans who came to England to study the language. And then there were lots of Japanese people who had theater background who came to learn about arts management, how theater is managed. So we had different interests, but mine was particularly in the museums and gallery sector. So I went into them, nearly all of them. I met the directors of all these institutions: Imperial War Museum, British Museum, Tate Gallery, National Portrait Gallery.
Sorry, I was just wondering if you could move the interview to
Okay,
What?
yes.
You can't sweep the floor. This is like at home.
Yeah.
There we are also moving around.
Should we sit here or on the other side?
Go in. You can go in here.
So I engaged these museums and galleries. Basically, my study was to see how British museums are coordinated, as in how are they funded. So I learned that.
So how long did you stay in there?
Stayed there for 2 years for first
For 2
time.
years.
Then I came back again to
Pursue studies or
to do research now.
or to do research in the in terms of the gallery sector
Yes,
or
yeah.
art sector. Yeah.
Yes, and to initiate what you could call traveling exhibitions. But there was already traveling exhibitions that was happening around the world, like those Picasso exhibitions, Japanese prints, but they were not coming to South Africa. They believe we do not have a big space, whether it's Cape Town, and two, we were not skilled in managing that sort of infrastructure or logistics. But it's not necessarily true. And then when I came back, I realized the only place to work was in Forte, because that had the most wonderful
So
exhibit.
Forte is a university, right?
The university,
Yeah.
but the collection.
Does it have a specific focus in terms of which studies are there?
They do. Initially,
Or is it kind of a broad range?
it's a broad university. Humanities is big.
Okay, so you didn't end up there because it was specifically
No,
focused
no.
on art.
I was interested in their collection. And they had these beadworks, the ones I'm writing about, connecting our fashion to
So they have a big kind of
collection.
art collection.
Art collection, which is
And
indigenous.
why do they have an art? Why do this university has an art collection?
At the time when it was set up after Loveday, because Loveday was the first institution to have an art school. So most people who are called painters today, like Gqeberha, they actually studied at Loveday, because Foster did not have art schooling. It had just courses for teachers. But the Minister of Education at the time, or let's not call it Minister of Bantu Education. Remember, it was separated before. There was education for whites, education for blacks. There was a minister for black education. His name is F.S. Malan. He opened a museum there, and he donated artifacts that were found lying around the country is the right place to deposit them. That's how Ford acquired them. They were donated by the Education Department. But afterwards, a family called Emil Hamilton Welsh, who had been here since the 1800s. This is a military general who came during the wars during the frontiers, fighting for land. And then he got himself established here. And then he was fascinated by garments worn by Xhosa. So he bought it for himself. And he named it after himself.
So he made kind of a collection.
A collection.
Because
and he also
interested.
left it there because the university was being built at the time. So that collection was put in boxes. When I came, it was still in boxes.
So this is kind of then the foundation of the collection.
Foundation, yes, yeah. And then around the 19th...
But you're saying it was in boxes, so nobody really cared about it.
They didn't care about it because the people here looked down upon this. Because the people have great, rich culture. They look down upon those cultures like beads. It's only now that they get fascinated with them. But then they look down on them. Because I tried to exhibit them, people did not respond.
No.
I tried to put them up. But the contemporary collection, which starts in the 1950s, which the university bought, is also very good. They set up a gallery because at the time there was no exhibition space for black artists. The only gallery for black artists was at Fort Hare. It used to be called Marion Gallery. They used to send the artworks by train from Durban, Cape Town, and they were collected at Ali Station and brought into the university and hung. And a sale would happen. When your work is sold, they would send you some money by post, telegram.
Was this then at that time already kind of an open gallery, or it was a collection?
It was just a room.
It was a collection.
The collection. This how it works. If you send your work there for an exhibition, the university had a policy. They only take one example from your work as payment.
So that was kind of running exhibitions, and then every time there was a contribution to the collection.
Yes, and that gallery had records. That's how I could read them. They had records, handwritten records.
Yeah.
How when it came, how much they charged, how much they paid artists, which work was retained. There was a committee that looked at selection, like for instance, these two works.
But that was going on already from the 1950s.
Yes, that's how that
continuously.
Continuous. Only stopped around 1980s.
1980s.
Yes.
What happened in 1980s?
Because of the commotion of riots.
Because of
disinvestment from Britain. What they call cultural boycotts.
Because the fight against the apartheid in the 80s was more kind of intense.
So the university management refused to release money anymore for this. So they pulled the plug too. Yeah. So the collection stopped there. So until now they've never bought anything. Only buy little things. For instance,
so you mean it stopped in the 1980s and then it never began again? So today there's the old collection.
They're rotating the whole collection.
But there has not been a new admin, and there has been no exhibitions since the 80s.
No. If you went there last year, 2 years ago, the gallery would be closed.
Okay.
But now it's open, huh?
Okay.
But what they do, they're rotating the same works.
Yeah.
But if you go close to the works, you'll see they've got these brown spots, especially works on paper, because they were not looked after very well. Very much like Anne Bryant.
Limani Gallery opened on December 10th, 2022, and is the new girl in town. But East London have had an art gallery for a very long time called Anne Bryant, which is the place Reggie Letsatsi is referring to at this point in our conversation. Okay, yeah.
Anne Bryant has got a very historic collection of South African art.
Yeah.
They've got the pioneers, Thomas Mutswai, Kent Richards, Robert Hodgins.
But if you go to Anne Bryant, because I've been there several times over the last 6 years.
They don't even show them.
It is a strange place to come to because it's it has not really been maintained, or
there's
you get
no
very
echo.
confused about what is going on.
What is the role? So,
and I always kind of was a little bit sad about it because it's a brilliant building, and there's a lot of rooms. There's upstairs and some rooms downstairs, and there's also kind of a room upstairs where it looks like a study or something.
There's a story
what is your...
There's a story about, coincidentally, My PhD is on a lady called Elaine Savage, an artist who did mosaics. That house was built by Elaine Savage's parents, the Savage family. He just married his mom, Miss Savage, let's call her. She was from King Williamstown. And then Elaine's parents come from England. Her father is also a military officer. But they came here, married a lady from King Williamstown, and they noticed that their child was interested in art. So they funded her. They sometimes let her go to Britain to go and see exhibitions at the British Museum. Because her home was opposite the British Museum. It says in the records. They built that house, but after they finished it, they were so bankrupt. They had to sell it. They sold it to the Bryan family. And the Bryans did not have children. So before he died, Mr. Bryan bequested that building to his wife. That if they die, that house must be turned into a gallery and it must be used for free. And they gave it to the municipality.
So the idea was to give it to the municipality?
So the artists can exhibit.
And when was that? When did he die?
1909.
1909?
Yes.
Beginning of...
Because around 1913, there was exhibitions now happening there. Except for one room that Elaine was allowed to use as a place to live because she didn't have a house. So Elaine was allowed one room there to live until she passed away. That's the history of that building. The people running the institution are actually under municipality.
What is the challenge of a Bryan, do you think? That it belongs to the municipality that's
Yes.
not really interested in
It's
it?
not
Or
interested.
is it a question of management or
I think
ideas or initiatives?
my experience with municipality museums, which is the Gqeberha Art Gallery was where I started, is everything you do must go through the library. So they fall under the library. So if the municipality is to cut down on expenses or budgets, they'll start there at the museum and remove them.
Or because they don't really have a good understanding of art, so this is something
get rid
that
of
we
them.
can live without.
That's why it's in that state. Two, when I was at Gqeberha Art Gallery, our director used to make good arguments that our museum or our gallery is like the library. So all the books they buy in our collection complements the library. So if someone is reading about art, they can also visit the gallery.
Yes.
That was the argument. That's how they could maintain us. The only thing they could do, they would cut our money to buy collections or having exhibitions that are expensive. But in those days, galleries used to fundraise, not rely on the municipality. Whereas here, there's a lack of creativity.
Now you're comparing
Yes.
Jack and Bryan,
Yeah.
and because there has been recently this discussion about
Yeah.
Jack in Durban, about that
Yes.
the malfunction of it and
You see.
the wear down, which is
Yeah.
kind of a little bit similar story
It's
than
similar.
Bryan, because
Yeah.
if you come. Last time I was in Jack,
Yeah.
which is 3 months ago, because I wanted to see, is it really this bad?
It was
Because I hadn't been there for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
And it was
it
strange because
gone,
there's
it's gone.
suddenly
The gates are gone,
there's
everything.
suddenly just like a
Yeah.
ruin
Yes.
where there's supposed to be
That's right.
a shopping.
Yes.
And the rooms are really went down. So because
Because
But
of
what
the
happened to
present.
Jack then?
What happened there is
that the
because
same story as
same story.
Yeah.
What happened is you mustn't forget the original municipality was run by what you could call National Party.
For the older
Yes,
apartheid party. Yeah.
yes, they were interested in their collection because it reflected their history. That's why they could buy those PNFs because they had a history. But when you look now, there was walk-ins of the new government, the present one, which did not really care about that heritage. So they
Or because
started-
because this heritage was kind of connected to the apartheid
Yes.
system, and when we get a new government, we reject all the things that is.
Yes.
So there's this dimension.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So they actually starved them financially.
They stopped.
Not stop, like gave him less and less. So they could not maintain the buildings. They could not maintain security. They lost insurance on the collection.
Okay.
The most secured collections are the ones on loan. Like if it is loan to Standard Bank, then they know it's fine.
Yeah.
The loan to Net Bank, it's fine. To National Gallery, it's
Oh, yeah.
fine. Or to national institutions, which are entities funded by national government.
The problem here is that it is a municipality
Yes.
who runs Jack. It's Gqeberha
Yes, that's right.
municipality.
Yes.
And not
national government.
okay.
And legally.
And that has always been like that.
It's always been
it has
like
not
that.
been
Some people try to change
what I
it.
was confused about is that you have Department of Art and Culture who's funding all kind of art things, but then you have Jack and Joburg, which is
No,
like a ruin.
they can't. Yeah, and they can't finance them because they fall within a lower structure of government.
Arts and culture could not go in and
Could not go fund them.
because there's a structure.
They belong to
barrier.
the structure, yes. So what happens is that even if when they apply for funding, they will have to partner with national museums, so they can share the money. But they will never get the money directly.
They went in to link up with one of the
let's say
museums
let's say
national-
Zigo Museum, the one in Cape Town. Zigo can apply to national government. They will get money, then they will share the exhibition with them.
So if you make a joint application,
It might work because you guys.
but then you have to have somebody in Jack who has that kind of initiative.
So it makes it difficult because
And it would be the same for in Brian.
yes, Brian is a difficult position, very difficult because first of all, municipalities have no mandate to maintain museums. They do not have a legal mandate. It's national.
So where's the mandate? The
mandate is with national.
But they are not funding.
They're not doing it.
So there is kind of
See,
a confusion there.
there is a
in the
confusion
structure.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
That is why if you look at career developments in the museums and gallery sector in this country, most people go into the galleries. You cannot enter the museum by going straight to nationals. Normally you have to work for municipalities first to gain experience, then go up
Yeah. Okay.
until to national. If you look at careers of most people who are established in this country, they started in municipalities, struggled, and then they move up.
Or then they move on.
Yes, but
And
after
as soon as you move up, then you leave the other level.
you leave.
You never want to go back.
No way. There's no one who comes down there again.
No,
It's
but
a
I mean,
very-
there's also no link between.
There is
the
no
two
link.
levels, eh?
There is just no link. So at municipality level, what you get, like this Kagaza will explain to you, he wants to quit the Durban Art Gallery. Same thing is that politicians have control there. They decide which exhibition should happen. You can have an exhibition for 2013, 2023 now, as a museum director here. But I can tell you they want to have a Nelson Mandela exhibition next year because they got funding for it. So you're forced to host it. So they can force that guy to have an exhibition in September. They normally do insist they want an exhibition in September for heritage. But also they want an exhibition in June for Youth Month. But they have an exhibition in December they call end of the year exhibition. And those exhibitions, if you look closely at them, nobody's making profit there. You only pay 5 rands to exhibit there. And then end brand sells your work.
Okay.
They are now starting to take 5% from the sales, but they're not allowed legally. So what they argue is that money is for maintaining 4 bulbs and drinks and snacks. But legally they're not allowed to charge. So that's why it's free.
So they can also not generate anything.
They don't.
Because that would have been another source of income.
I mean, if they have any ideas there, the ideas only end up at themes, proposing themes.
But it is also because the times I have been to in Brian, I have been wondering, then if there is an exhibition, there's also no idea about it. It's just you get confused that you come in and then there's some paintings they don't really relate to. So you come in the next room and the level of
there's no connection
like that. And so and that is confusing for the audience, I think.
Yes, absolutely. But the nicest thing or the strangest thing about the Brand is that it's the only gallery in East London. It services Alice. You know, when I was working at Fort Head, the only place you can exhibit work for students, even staff members, was here. We used to bring an exhibition. We didn't hang it, we just give it to Leon to hang because he doesn't allow anyone. He says the municipality does not allow anyone to hang here. Yeah. We do your hanging.
Okay.
So those are really nice challenges. But if I can go back now to when I went to Britain, when I came back, this is my experience with Empire was at Fort Head. But then I left Fort Head 2 years later because there was something coming up called the merging of universities. merging of Border Technicon, the universities, and giving them one name. In Durban, they were merging MN Sultan University, Mangosuthu University, and Natal Technicon. These three institutions have their own artworks. My job was to manage the collection.
But what kind of budget is that these universities has?
It depends on the...
Where does that come from? Because
normally,
if you buy artworks, there must be a budget for
there
that.
must be a budget. But at DUT, the faculty dean used to forward budget to the VC for art collections. And they stressed that it's important to have what they call teaching collections.
Or because they have a fine art department,
so they must have collections.
As the one that you're teaching here in Islamic.
Yeah.
So in connection to that, there is a collection.
And a gallery.
Which is part of the education.
So students, that's it.
Okay.
Whereas here, they don't have a gallery.
That is the reason for that.
That's the reason, yeah. So it was already. So basically, we're buying what you could. They were all. Sometimes they call them research collection.
Yeah.
If postgrads want to do research.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's because that. No, I'm used to the part of the world I come from.
Yes,
there would be several institutions who has a collection. Yes. So the university will not have a collection because the National Art Museum will have next door.
Yes, see, that's right. Yeah.
But since it's not like that here, then you have another organization of that.
Yes.
Well, you have to have an access. Of
course. Whereas here at WUSU, we don't have a collection.
There's no collection here.
There's no gallery.
So you can teach fine art without a collection.
No.
No, I mean, because the idea was that the department has to have a collection.
Has to have,
in terms of research.
Fashion collection, garments that they teach that reflect the history of, but here they don't have. And I think the problem is the people that have been running this place had no exposure to how other universities work. I was invited to apply for a job as a project manager to set up a museum from scratch, the so-called Albert Luthuli Museum. Then I set up a small dealership called Art Trends, which is a small company of dealerships selling work, going to auction houses, buying affordable pieces, and selling them afterwards to museums. So I sold to a National Gallery in Cape Town, and when it was Izigo, I sold as well. I sold to the Gqeberha Art Gallery, and while I was doing that, Linda Goodman recruited me.
Goodman Gallery is one of the main art galleries in Johannesburg, who was founded by Linda Goodman in 1966. The gallery now also has gallery spaces in Cape Town and in London. Okay, this is where Goodman came in.
Yeah,
because
Goodman,
I was going to ask you, you told me the other day that you worked with the Goodman Gallery.
Yeah, so
all these things you have told me, that was before Goodman.
Before, Then I would go to Goodman, and I know they have these, for instance, they have Claudines in the storeroom. So I'd loan them.
So so then you kind of slowly sliding into the corporate part of the art scene, so to speak. So what is your reflection about the difference? Because what you have been telling me until now this has been under university, under public domain. But now when you come
to Goodman,
it's commercial. It's a commercial corporate basis of doing.
Because I stumbled into it when I was selling other people's work, and I realized that I could approach galleries and loan works on consignment.
Or instead of just museums.
And go to galleries and go and interact with all of them. Nathalie Knight, Everett Reed, Goodman. There were very small ones that died very quickly. Many. There was a Market Theatre gallery as well. Permanent collection based, but also commercial at the same time, because we were fundraising money for the theatre. Goodman was the more receptive. And as if I came in, sat with Linda in her office and say, I'd like to loan Norman Catherine and Andrew. I'm going to see FFC. FFC stands for Financial and Fiscal Commission, which is an agency which advises governments on spending, called Fiscal and Finance Commission.
Which is a government institution, but it's kind of separate.
So I once visited them and discovered that nothing on the walls. I required to meet the CEO. I told her, I can get you nice pieces that can come here. How? I said, do you have a budget? He says, yeah. So I invited him to the gallery. He said, no, let me bring them. So I would go and rent a van and get from these galleries and bring and hang them. And after hanging them, he said, no, we want to keep all of them. So my business expanded. But eventually Linda asked me to come and join them.
The engagement with Goodman Gallery was that you were working with them, or did she employ you?
No, initially it was the agency arrangement, which is the one I discussed.
Because you had your own entity.
Yeah, I had my own entity. Yes, yeah. Because my entity stops actually once I joined them.
They took your project
because
in.
It resulted precisely on this whole business of commissions. Because it wasn't clear that are they going to pay Reggie commission once a month, or are they going to pay work.
So your role in Goodman Gallery was then that you were buying works, or you were for Goodman?
No. I was selling work for them.
You were selling for them?
Yes, as well too. But I was getting help in many ways from Linda, because she and I were friends. So she'd fund me when I was going. She'd fund me when I was going overseas. She'd buy me tickets. She would let me know when for instance, when that guy Gqeberha passed away in France, Goodman was active in repatriating work to South Africa with AB6. The judge with one arm. She was also instrumental in getting other collections back into South Africa. And I used to sit with her and ask her, how did you start the gallery? She'd tell me, I was in London, I went there as a dancer, and then I met the gallery owner, taught me just like I teach you. And then he left me, died, so I took over the gallery. And then I came back to set it up here, so ever since. Then she kept that institution, that site, to send work across the world. So she mastered, but she was also often criticized for not being a real artist, not being a real artist. Not going to art school. So she learned a trade on her own. Whereas art gallery dealers had studied art or art history.
But that is how it was originally. Because if you today talk with galleries, then there's all kind of different people who are gallerists, who has. And a lot of them actually do not have any formal art training.
Some of them
and a lot of them are actually businessmen.
Some of them
are also met people who are galleries who have a background in political science.
Others are lawyers. It doesn't make sense.
But lawyers are, maybe that is more natural, because in the field of law there has always been a big interest in art. A lot of lawyers have always been buying art.
They're buying art, and once they start trying to disperse it, they sell it, and they sell it as a dealership when they get.
Because I think their training has kind of an old-fashioned.
It's an old-fashioned approach.
Training and culture. And then they have this cultural interest. I realized that in many of the art fairs I've been to, there's a very big portion of the galleries who has no official
background,
has no formal background, but who are simply. They are. I can't really figure out if because it would be weird if you think that you can make money in the area of
in a
art,
space like
that. Because it would be a lot easier for people to make money somewhere else. So it's a little bit strange. There must be some kind of motive. Why is art actually attractive to people who have no formal art training? That is an interesting question. You were working with Goodman Gallery, but then
there was a big event.
University.
I ended back to Forte again.
But you went back to Forte?
Yes, again. What happened is that during those things of hanging works for corporates, I can remember only one now. It used to be called Head Boys, name of the agency. It was an advertising agency called Head Boys. It was black owned, 100% black owned. Opening an advertising agency, but want some works for the guests to look. So they loaned some works from us. So we did the selection. They never told us.
So you went back to Forte University?
So when this launch was happening, we selected works And while we were busy hanging, because they used to wear those white overalls. While we were busy hanging, this is around 5, 6, and the opening is that night, and we're still hanging. So they're making announcements. We thank so-and-so, Reggie, for his artworks. No, it's not my artworks. They belong to good men. Yeah. And by the way, they bought them afterwards.
Okay.
I think there was a vice chancellor of 40, a new one who just came out of London. His name is Mzamani. Yeah. He met with me, spoke, and he said, look, there's a huge problem down there in Alice. I want you to come over. I told him I've been there before. He says, no, there's new people that come. So I joined them for the second time. So I went there again then to work there. But then I get there again, I found the collection is badly managed. Everything is put flat like this, the frames. Yeah. So I had to lift them, put them against the wall, front to front, back to back, remove the dust, write a report, conservation strategy, how to restore this. The air cons were not working. So I started work back again there. And then I got sucked into the art gallery. But Fort is very highly political environment. There's a sense of ownership. For instance, because I come from Joburg, I don't belong there. Yeah, especially if you get appointed on a senior position. They think, oh, nice, congratulations, but you're not from here, you know.
When I came to East London 6 years ago, I tried to figure out what is, because I'm interested in art and music and theatre. Yeah. Then I tried to figure out, and what I realized that there was in Brian, which we have talked about already, then there's also Guild Theatre. In Guild Theatre, in 6 years, I managed to go there once, where there was kind of a one-night performance with some music.
And you just go in.
And the next time, another time I went there, there was some Indians who has a party there.
Yeah, weddings and things.
Closed, private party. And next to Guild Theatre, there's the museum.
Yes.
Which is also a very weird place because it's very dark.
London Museum.
And there's actually a restaurant next to the museum which is always closed. And then I think there used to be out there close on the way to the harbour when you want to go to the airport. Yes. There used to be a jazz club there.
There used to be,
but I never managed to go there because they were closed before I realized that they were there.
It's very strange.
And then there's another, close to Guild, there's another theatre which is always closed, where there's some musical performances sometimes, where there used to be.
Is it the
so there's, so you're right, there's this, but
the municipalities.
But the weird thing is, Richie, that there are institutions in East London, but they're empty. And what is that about?
No, the coordination is really bad.
So I'm just thinking that there must have been a past in East London where there has been something going on.
And then they discontinued.
And then maybe it stopped, or I don't know. It
stopped for some reason. We can talk briefly about it in Brian Gallery. Look at it. There hasn't been any maintenance on that. There hasn't been any restoration. It's a nice building.
And there's a nice outside.
Yes.
I remember there was sometimes they throw these kind of garden events.
Yes, they stopped.
Okay.
Because they cost money. Even the garden is maintained by the municipality.
A lot of people do these garden events.
But you'll notice that the gallery is actually frequented by nearly all the artists in East London. Let's say Eastern Cape, because even people from Alice, Adelaide, Mthatha have to come here to exhibit their work. There's no gallery in Mthatha.
No.
There's no gallery in Queenstown. There are galleries in PE, but PE is very metropolitan. It's a vibrant city, and it's a metro, but also it's governed by DA. So those things matter.
So you mean because DA still have
control.
Another relationship to art and culture?
Yes.
I was told that Leon from Brian has been here and talking to you or something.
Yeah, no, we engaged with him. We went to see him.
Yeah.
That was our plan.
Or you went to see him?
Yes.
Or he came here?
We went to see him.
Okay.
Bush and I told Bush, let's go and consult this guy.
Yeah.
I think he needs to get a sense that we're excited and we want him to be excited too. Yeah, he was excited. He says, great. And we asked him, is there any things you can help us? He says, no, well, I can give you some names of artists that are worth checking out. Though we didn't host them, us.
But do you know then when you are engaging with him, what is your feeling? What is his plan?
He was quite excited. He even came to the opening. I invited him, he came. The problem we had with his site is that his audiences is mostly people who are elderly, old.
The public in East London are not really attracted to that place?
No, really. But let's put it this way. Let's say N. Brian has got his old patrons from 20, 30 years ago. They still come.
They're beginning to die.
Yes, it's mostly people. So if we brought them here, they would have filled this place. But we agreed with Leon that we'll invite his group afterwards.
Okay, yeah.
We'll show the communication where we invite them. They could have their own not opening event, because they would have been crushed there, it was full.
Or you want to meet and not make an event especially for them.
That's it.
Because they are connected to Brian, then you invite them here as a group.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Basically, it's to make sure that our relations with them is... And he came too, looked around, was impressed. He looked at our hanging system, he said, great, where did you buy these? I said, no, we didn't buy them, we made them. How? So we showed him, he said, well, we gave him some examples. We thought this whole thing of hanging with wire was not. And we prefer our works are invisible, the hanging devices. We thank him for giving us his names. For instance, Claudine, we didn't know her. We found this name from him. He's gave us these names.
Oh, okay.
And then we phoned them.
Okay.
We met with them. Afterwards, we signed.
Okay, so this was already in the planning process. You were interacting with them. Yeah.
So he also says he will continue to feed in some ideas, even names, if we want them in the future.
Yeah, okay.
My understanding from this relationship we started is that we could, notwithstanding his political connection with the municipality, take an exhibition there, a big one.
Brilliant. To work with him to see that he can also contribute to this space.
We could bring in artists from overseas, but also spend time at Brian to work with artists there.
So the other night this idea popped up.
Yes.
That before Christmas when we were talking here, you talked also about developing a kind of a residentship or a retreat or something.
Yes.
And maybe this building, in Brian's building, would be good for making a retreat because that it is a charismatic building. Of course, it will need some renovation. So I just thought that this could also be a trailer
it's got an extension on the other side. You know, there's other space.
On the other side of the
main building, there's a small one.
Yeah, there's an exhibition in the small building.
Yes.
Or that was the case when
sometimes
I was there.
Used to be used as a residence. Sometimes.
Oh, because there's there's a couple of rooms. I mean, the big building is here, and then there's a small
room.
But it is used as an exhibition space. Also.
Just for now, yes. But if they had funds,
because
I think they could have joined them.
That as an artist, my perspective would be a nice place to stay and work because there's this park and there's this old building with art and.
I mean, there's an art gallery a block away from them. You know, not art gallery, art center, Belgravia Art Center.
What's it called?
Belgravia.
Belgravia. Oh, yeah.
You know
I
that
know
name?
that one.
It's an art center.
Yeah.
I think Andrew taught there as well. There's a guy we could not get. His name is Daniel Moy, great artist.
Okay.
He could not come because when we were putting together the gallery, he had a baby. They had a baby. So he put out all the plans and took leave from work, so we couldn't engage him. So Belgravia has got lots of activity which has a relation with the empire. So sometimes they have what they call Belgravia 20-something, 2022 exhibitions. Belgravia already started relations with them because we want to go close and see what sort of work is produced there, if some of it can be brought here for exhibition purpose. They don't have space. They just have an art center. If you want to exhibit, you need to take it to Empire.
So they have to have a collaboration.
So we could play with it, yes. So we would engage with them. But the idea of residence definitely must form part of our promotion.
So now you're already beginning to talk about the art who is here in this room. Maybe you could try to talk about some of these artworks here.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Leon actually gave you this idea of Claudia
Hock.
Hmm?
Yeah, Claudine Hock.
And
she's German. Yes.
She's German, but she's living in South Africa.
Yes. She's been here for many years now. She's exhibited in Brian many times, and then she stopped.
But she's living here close to East London. Huh?
Yeah, she lives in Gqeberha, and then she has a studio there.
But has she also been exhibited other places?
I like the word other places. You know, she refers to these other places as framers. Framers. You know, those framers who call themselves galleries.
Places where you are making frames for art pieces or for photographs, who sometimes call themselves art galleries, but which is not an art gallery we are talking about. That. Yeah. Claudia here, her paintings is quite big, and it is quite oil on canvas.
And has
how would you describe it?
Her work is very special. She invented a technique which I have not come across until I met her. When she paints on the canvases, which is mostly abstract, she allows it to dry over a period of 1 year. That means these paintings, once she's done them, she lets them dry. Okay. Once she dries, they dry it, like finish real full year. Then she takes a grinder, you know, a grinding tool.
Mm-hmm. And then she kind of scrape the paint
the
off.
Layers off, to get the layer underneath.
So she has been painting in a couple of layers already in the first place, and then they scrape it, and then something will remain.
Remains, yes. Yeah. Some new colors come out, which were not initially in the
and
plan.
That is why it looks. That is why it looks, because it looks quite thin, and you can actually see the structure of the canvas through, and there's even some
tearing, which is also intended.
And is this intended?
Yes, intentional. You see, I like the way because it shows a new direction of
work.
But
will she then?
This is what I call new direction.
But will she kind of paint on top of it again after scraping?
She could paint because she's just found this experimentation, and she found it works. She writes this. She wrote after
she writes something after. That is after scraping.
Yes.
Then she write with a pen or.
Yes, with a pen or crowd charcoal. For instance, these circles. Can you see them?
There's circles in the center piece, and then there's some writing to the left here.
Well. Interesting work, you see. And some marks as well. Yeah. And these here, they look like charcoal. It shows that she's actually interacted with this canvas heavily before letting it go or stop working on it. Look at the tearing here. But one of the things she wanted to do on this painting was to remove the spine and paint it white and put it back so that the white can come out on those holes. Okay. I was a bit worried. I said, what if you can put it back?
But actually, I thought at some point when I looked at this painting, I thought it was like a cross, or it's like a window that you look out of somehow, great, which has an interesting effect, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you are kind of looking through the painting in some strange way.
Yes, absolutely.
To understand it right, so she wanted to remove this and then simply paint white,
so that you get a beautiful effect coming through these holes.
She wanted to paint white behind.
Yes.
In the frame,
on the wood.
Yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah.
So and I discouraged her.
But you are afraid of what you are afraid of what?
Because it's fragile.
You mean you are afraid that this would be too?
No, the color is fine.
Rough,
I like it. I would like to see the white coming out. It's just that the whole exercise of removing it and putting it back might not go back again, because this is a very fragile wood.
It's already ripped a lot.
Yes. I mean, there was plenty of dust there, which is accumulated from the crime. Okay. Whereas this one is a nice bluish, which
so this is a lot lighter or more kind of cold colors, like blue and green.
Yes, and red and orange.
While the other one is kind of red.
Red wine, yes. Beautiful colors too, And the tearing is there as a signature.
Because she has done the same here. Yeah, she has been painting it and then scraping it and then working with.
She lose a lot here.
With some writing or something.
Yes, and writing, plating of marks and messaging which we can't read. But what I found is there's lots of things that happen. Look at the color there. This color is on top. There's a color underneath. There's a purple underneath, which is beautiful. The way that surface is created, very, very nice. The terrain
Because
is always there.
if you compare it to a so-called norming or oil painting, then you will not have this in the same layer.
You wouldn't, no.
Then you will have different layers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So look, this looks like a terrain, but it's not. And some new colors which are found. You can come this side.
Yes.
Look at this color. I really love this color. On the side. I don't know if it's a lime, but I can imagine if it was here, it would make a huge difference on this canvas.
The small ones here are also
The smaller ones are also here.
Small squares.
Stitch work. He calls them stitch work.
But are they sketches or are they just small versions of?
These small versions of the abstractions. There's two versions. There's some stitching on paper, and these are stitching on cloth.
Oh, this is on canvas, eh?
Yeah, this on canvas. These are quite pricey. I mean, I wasn't sure when I saw that 2,000 rand per unit. I thought, wow.
So, but they were produced to kind of have small, more easy versions
accessible,
to sell.
So
maybe
people,
also.
yes, that's right. If someone wants to buy clothes.
So this was not something that she.
No.
This is not something that she's doing normally.
No. These are smaller versions. She's also prepared to even sign them if it's necessary.
Another one in the other room. Eh? I mean,
Yes.
The gallery has these 3 rooms. There are 2 with art, and then
yes.
there's one with textile.
Yes.
So this one is hers, eh?
This one is hers.
Which is a little bit similar, just in other colors
Yeah.
to the other 2.
Very nice color.
And then there are, over here we have, they are then only the canvas, which is kind
Not stretched.
which is
unstretched.
Almost a bit
Hung as
transparent.
installation, yes.
You can see the light from outside.
Yeah.
They are hanging in the window, so we can see.
Yes.
see.
This one works both ways. You can.
So there is a painting on both sides,
Which is very
which is
unusual.
distinctly different.
Yeah, you can see the writing there.
But she painted on both sides.
What she did,
Or
I
it
think
went- or it went through.
this went through, as you can see. And then in our discussion, I was
she
convinced.
painted on this side.
Yeah, no, she painted this side. And then this side she had what you call a backing. She had a backing of paper to prevent the whole surface to be covered. So whenever it was dry, then she'll peel it off.
Or she peeled off the paper.
Paper, this is the remains.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then she liked this, and then she said, is it possible if we can use this both sides? I said, no, it's fine. I'm more than happy. I just need to think how I'm going to hang it. So that's why it took us a long time to come up with this thought. Initially, we used these office clips, but then we also found these clips for canvas. And
this
here's
one,
two.
This one's a double.
This is
There's
two, yes,
canvases
yes.
on-
Because you see the one at the back is plain. And if we had this one plain, it would look like inside. It would look ugly. So we put this one so it have 2 pieces. So that's how we put prices there, 3 of them, because we know there's 3 works here.
Okay.
Is it making sense? Her work is really outstanding.
Then there's
Andrew?
this works was made on vinyl.
Andrew
Modric.
yes.
And
Andrew's work is quite humorous, just like his ceramics.
because he has these works which is paint on vinyl, and then he also has ceramics. And the 2 type of works are quite
Full of humor.
different somehow.
Different, medium, different.
But
medium.
here we have this vinyl is it has a dark background, and then it's
Mixed
quite
media,
colorful,
and
it's
he used the scratch tool.
because this is scratched through the paint.
Scratch through the paint.
Yeah.
But also use what you could call collage to bring in shapes. He paints and brings shapes, he casts the shapes. And he sprinkles paint, sprinkles ink. I'll call it ink because it's not paint, using a brush.
It is ink, but how is it applied?
I don't know.
It's applied by a brush or
using a
by
toothbrush.
spray?
Yeah, or spray, yes. I thought it was toothbrush initially, but spray could be possible as well.
Because all these marks that you're talking about now, this is kind of small figures or small. Some of them look like creatures or human or faces.
Yes, looks as human.
But they have this kind of collage.
Yes, approach on it, yes, yeah. I mean, this looks like a hand. This looks like a small vehicle or a boat, someone sitting on a boat. Very childish. I mean, look at the depiction of the fish. And this also is a collage. But you can see all that influence from Norman Catherine's work.
Norman Catherine is an artist and South African artist from East London. He was born in 1949. He works with painting, graphic, printmaking, and mixed media.
Because he was influenced by Norman Catherine, especially on those two.
Because there's this one, and then there's
these two.
The other room, there's two more, three actually. There's this one.
Yes, there's this one.
Who's similar to the first one, who's also very dark.
Yeah.
And have these collage applications on it.
I think what he did on this vinyl, I think he finds it white.
So the vinyl is white from the beginning.
Sprays it, yes.
And then he puts. So I mean, this is the area where there is white. It's original.
It's not original.
Okay.
So he made it black, and when he scratches,
then the white comes up. So there's one who is actually white.
There's a white one. He just put he had not black on it. Yeah. Instead, he's used black to draw.
This white one, there's a lot of whites, so he has not painted.
He's not painted, yeah. And there's very little scratching, you see. This one he painted black and scratched again. Yeah. And then this one he painted, but didn't do any. So he's put a lot of collage. He calls this Phil Collins. That's him, right?
It's himself?
Yes.
Okay.
That's Phil Collins.
That is so.
Yes.
Famous himself.
So he doesn't attempt to make a portrait of him. He just cuts it and pastes it.
Because this is a photograph of him.
Yes. Yeah.
And then he has cut out. You can see the eyes and the nose and the mouth.
Yeah. And then here you see quite a lot of surfaces. You can see layer, the pink on top of blue, blue, red under, on top of yellow. These patches of surfaces, which is a nice interplay of surfaces, which is done.
It's a little bit connected to some type of pop art somehow.
Yes.
Which also are using this application.
Yes.
Or it looks like application.
Yes. I mean, this shows
almost like that you have printed on it.
This one is from the Beatles. What's his name? McCarthy. Paul McCarthy.
Yeah.
When she was still. This one also. I only realized after a couple of days that this looks like one of those Mexican hats.
Yes.
I only looked at the eyes.
Yeah.
But there's a mixture of things, the collages, and it's starting to look like a frame. Using a masking tape, again, these images and mixing them with cut-out shapes. This is a
moustache.
Yeah, it looks like a mustache.
There's a heart here with monster.
Yes.
And friendly fire.
Yes. And the tit there, I don't know what it's doing here. And this looks like a hand as well.
The aesthetics is a little bit similar to, if they work with art with children, sometimes you ask them to cut out something and then glue it on top.
Yes.
As a way of doing collage.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And he likes to play with three-dimensional things, because you think you can't see 3D things, but there it shows you that he's actually quite aware of what is 3D. And there's that ink thing. I'm not sure if it was intentional or it did not sit on the piece. It's flowing down and he's allowing it to flow. But the white ones for me are better because he has not used so much. And he also tries and decorates his surfaces, textures. Very stylized and simple things. These look like cigarette butts.
So because there are these works on vinyl, which we're talking about now, but then he has also made these ceramics in the other room. What is the relationship between these collage works and the ceramics? Because when I look at it, it seems totally different.
It's true. But what I noticed,
do you see any connection between them?
Yes, what I noticed about this work and the ones on vinyl is there's a really serious attempt to make fun out of life.
They also have this dimension of application.
It's primitivism, yes.
Elements who are put together.
And ignoring proportions, just like a child.
Yeah.
And on these plates, what I found more specific is that he uses text.
Because here there's a lot more text than in the vinyl works.
It's just images. What I see is text. Regimented eating plan.
Because it says FAD and Prada. Prada is a shoe brand, eh?
Yes, that's
but
right.
FAD, what is it?
I don't know what it stands for, honestly.
Is there abbreviation for some institution in South Africa?
I should ask actually. But what I know that when he says regime, obviously means regiment. Regimented eating plan. So eating less so you can afford shoes. And this is what I figure.
Okay.
Expensive shoes. Even the color, I think it makes sense. But I know that this looks like his signature.
Okay, this is his signature.
Yes.
Which is kind of like a
crown.
A profile with a crown.
Probably him. They're all like this. Okay.
Oh, the crown.
Yeah, the crown.
The crown is the signature.
So all these works are like this at the back. These I never even had time to read or understand them.
Because the top one are the one we are talking about now are sharp yellow background and then with red and black and blue. The other ones on top is more light colors, still
gray,
yellow
charcoal,
and black, but still with a white background or a cream background.
And full of images, which also are defined of proportions.
Because it seems on the top level, animals plays a bigger role.
Yes, absolutely. And they're all hanging in space, there's no context. Very humorous. And I see that crown of his at the top there, it looks like an M.
His signature. It's an M, that's where it comes from.
That's his also?
Like they look like an urn, a burnt body or something.
I think for the points what I found more interesting is the fact that he gives them a different finish. These ones are glazed. Mm-hmm. This one is not glazed. And there's something about this African mask influence.
Because now when we're talking about, I'm thinking about that these ceramic pieces has a more direct relationship to heritage maybe.
That's right, yes. And he experiments with different things. I mean, look at this 1969. Oh, it's 69 vet. There's a one called 69. I don't know what it means. Is it explosive? But the crown is always there, even facing down. These are quite humorous. I mean, these need someone who has time to look at them and read them, probably be able to buy them actually after reading them, because the message might make sense to the audience. But this one, particularly the big one, is special in the sense that there's a reason why he makes them big, and obviously his approach to surface texture is similar to that, making sure all the surface is covered. I mean, there's not one side where it's actually white. Every surface is actually 100% covered, just like those vinyls. But to get the storyline, you probably have to read it. I think it says some in the name of Cast into Darkness. And you can see he's enjoying
alternative ending, backup plan in the name of what?
Cast into Darkness.
Campfire.
And then this side it says Helen Beck. I assume this is a mask I want to discover later. A note behind the truth.
Yeah.
And then the features of men. I don't know what the features is. I still haven't checked. But these reminds of those mirror images. Middle-aged hero's journey. Very colorful, obviously engaging. And you see all these techniques that we saw on the vinyls getting employed here. Scratching, putting color. Perhaps Sabalo can tell us, how do you scratch? Or you first put color in glaze. But this is very interesting as well, because it looks like a road, but it looks like an eye as well. But for me, this is actually one of his best works.
So now we have been talking about these two artists, which was also the two artists that you told me about the other day when I first came into this gallery.
Thanks, yes.
So, but there's also other artists.
Yes.
So, did you the other day when I made you present these two artists because you thought it was the best ones, or the one you liked the most, or what was the reason for that?
The reason for this was...
Or would you also like to say something about the other artists?
No, I could say a lot about other artists as well. I mean, the entire exhibition is a very complex mix of salad of many things. There's a mix of figurative work, abstract, there's photography, and the photography is not the same. This is very much heritage, if you like, because it reminds people of their youth. When they see this, it reminds them of the the activities and things when they were still here. So it's got its own context. Whereas this one is totally by different artists. Makalima.
There's two benches. There's men sitting. We see them from the back.
So we can't see them. We can't see their identities. But you are told in the title that it's about a hearing, for instance. You know, a hearing like a young man who did something wrong, and then he's here to explain before he gets fined or spanked. And he says, Tetam Fanami, speak, boy, young man. So I assume the young man is probably one of them. I can't say it's this one. Or else it could be a context where a young man relates a story.
But this work and also this work of the square is more kind of figurative. While the others that we have been talking about until now is more abstract.
And these ones connect to the history of this province, about the experience living here. Because already the title is Xhosa. And I'm sure in other cultures they don't sit like this. I don't think men in Joburg sit like this. They might sit in a different context because it's a modern international environment, whereas this is rural, which somehow connects you to indigenous dress. I mean, you and I are in the center of these initiation rites and celebrations where people celebrate their culture, initiation and being promoted from being young boys, Mfana, to a real man. So this could be an initial discussion about initiation. So these are really important works. They really connect in a sense. And despite being a rural subject, but the treatment is very impressionist. And you can see that Makalima is using these big brush strokes. Of course, there are other layers behind, but it's mostly big brush strokes. I would have said that white was the latest strokes, but I think yellow are the last ones to lay on this canvas. Red is the only one there. Very floating images.
Well, you see some people from the front. They are in a public place, and there's a child in front of us with something in his hand.
And a very simplified approach to creation of depth. As you can see, this is a middle ground. There's a background, but there's a depth there as well. We can't see it properly because we're close to the image. But if we stand far away, we'll probably see further depth. You know, and we don't even know if this kid is one of the kids in the other image.
We have three girls.
Have this hairstyle is the one.
We see they are doing something with their hands. They're looking at their hands. One is pointing with a finger, and they are kind of looking a little bit, not really at each other, but towards each other.
So then having a conversation.
Sisters having a conversation is the title.
And these are triplets.
They are triplets?
Yes.
That is a bit rare.
He's got triplets, yes.
So I realized that in cultures further north, also Bantu cultures, there is if somebody gets twins, it's a certain kind of honor, and they will actually get a certain kind of name if you are father of twins. So how is it in South Africa or in Xhosa culture?
I don't know.
Is it a specific honor to get more than one child at once?
It's a special thing, of course.
Or is it how is it regarded to get twins or triplets?
It's a special thing. I mean, for triplets or twins.
They would have special gifts for that matter. They would have special gifts.
Special gifts if you get twins.
Like twins, yes. Twins, I know that they will be regarded as very spiritual and able to detect, what's the right word?
So it means that if you are the father of triplets, you are specifically proud, or
you can say.
Or are you proud if you only got one?
But it's a special thing to have triplets, even twins, especially with this, let's say, identical twins. Very special. There are lots of them in this province.
Okay.
In the rugby leagues, there are lots of people who are twins there.
Okay.
And play for the same team. I know a colleague of mine who's got a twin brother, and he believes that he's spiritually gifted.
Because they are twins?
They're connected. one can tell.
Because of this
even if
connection,
they-
there's
yeah.
something special going on.
Yeah, even if they're not in the same place, they know how the other one is feeling right now here.
Yeah.
I'm a twin too, but we're not the same. I have got a twin sister.
Or because
And-
you're not
Yes,
identical twins.
identical, yeah. It's
But
never
do you feel
true.
special gifted before?
I'd be lying if I said so.
What is your relationship to your sister? Do you have a certain kind of connection?
Yes,
with
we
your
have
twins?
connections because culturally we brought up a different way. I mean, when we were young, there were no scans like today. Today, when your kids are 3 months old, you can tell they're twins. In those days, I don't think my folks knew that they had twins. And they believe that the baby comes first actually is young.
Younger than yours.
Yeah, the one who comes last is old because she helped to have the first one delivered. So like pushed him out.
Okay, that's
So it's another belief.
nice way of putting it.
Yes.
So then it's not conceived as twins
No, don't conceive as twins.
because they come out of different
Yeah,
times.
different times.
Okay.
I mean, I was the first one to come out, but I'm considered small because she came last, so she's older than me.
So
And
she's
she
taller than
came.
you are.
Well, we're almost the same size. And then she...
Or I mean, emotionally,
Yes.
this is how you
Yeah,
think
and
about it.
then, yes, and then what else? She's regarded as the wisest.
Because she comes last.
She comes last. And they believe the person who comes last will make moves.
Make one?
Moves, faster moves when they get on
okay.
earth, like build a career, move, mature quicker. Because the biggest achievement was to push the first baby out.
I know about twins that there's some kind of cultural things and traditions and beliefs that those are people that believe in. For instance, if one twin is deceased, the other one has to do a symbolism of being dead as well. That's what they do in the other cultures.
Because they are connected in a physical and also emotional. I think in everywhere where I have heard about how people think about twins, there is this idea of that there's a certain kind of connection which is connected to that you are born at the same time, and that in that way that you would feel a little bit disabled if you're not
With
together.
Yes,
Or
okay.
you don't grow up together.
yes, it's true. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We
Oh,
have
sure.
been through your career. We changed your life, and now we are back to contemporary everyday life,
Yes.
which maybe is a nice way of concluding. So
Yes.
thank you for your time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
You have listened to a bonus track by Fondness and Friendship. If you have built up an appetite for more, then you can follow us on thewhiteafricanblogspot.com and walk in our footsteps by stepping into In My Footstep WordPress.com. We broadcast new episodes of our radio show every first Tuesday of the month, available on your preferred platforms.